Hello again. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Sorry for that silence there. I was moving this, adjusting the screen here, and thinking about what we're about to talk about. We're in the book of Matthew. We're in chapter 14. I'm down at verse 22, and we are reading for the context, reading to understand what's happening, reading for context, and seeing how we can apply the Word of God to ourselves. Also, open for discussions and comments. This is not a rehearsed thing. I do try to read ahead, and I do read ahead, so at least I know what we're reading. But I don't really prepare any comments or anything, and I'm sure that's readily obvious. I want this to be more of a real, we read this, we understand what we're reading in the context that it is, and then try to apply that to us what we can. Some events are just events, and we may not have a ready application for that. There may be an application for it later that comes to us as we continue on, but there may not be a ready application right this moment. It may be that this is an event, just a telling of what happened. So that does occur. But we want to pay special attention to what Jesus is teaching his disciples, because that is what he is teaching us, and that's part of the Word of God and what we need to learn. So, pardon me. So, again, we're in the book of Matthew, chapter 14. I'm going to read verse 22, 22 down through verse 33. Okay? So, in verse 22, this was after feeding the 5,000. Immediately, this is Jesus, immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. But when evening came, he was there alone. I'm sorry, I added a but there. He went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. Now, so what we're saying here is basically Jesus was dismissing the crowds. He told the disciples to go on across without him, back across the water. They were probably at the Sea of Galilee, and they were probably, they were constantly going around and moving back and forth there. If it was another body of water, that's fine. It doesn't really matter which body of water it was in that sense. But he dismissed the crowds, and then he went up on the mountainside to pray. Now when evening came, he was there alone, but the boat was a long way from land. Now it says, and in the fourth watch of the night, well, this would be, the fourth watch of the night would be somewhere around probably 3 to 6 a.m. It would be sort of pre-morning, still nighttime, but pre-morning, if you know what I mean. So it would have been, or maybe it was something like 2 to 5, but nonetheless, it was, it was very late at night, or really kind of pre-morning early. So in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. And the fourth watch was right before you would have gotten up, and it would have been morning. So, but he came to them walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It is a ghost," and they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Well, of course, they had never seen anything like this. Of course, they were scared, and they mistook what they were seeing. I guess that's understandable back in those days. And even now, if we saw somebody walking on the water, I don't know how we would react. And I don't mean like a magic show. I mean really doing that. And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. He said, this is Jesus, said, come. So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. Well, first off, we do give Peter a hard time sometimes when we say, oh, Peter, he gets out and he messes up and he's going to sink and drown. But you notice Peter is the only one that gets out of the boat. Okay, Peter is the only one that says, hey, Lord, then, command me to come to you on the water. Because he says, if that's you, then I should be able to walk on the water to you as well. And that takes a lot of faith right there. For all that Peter's not perfect, and he does get a little afraid once he gets out on the water, just look at the faith and the courage it takes here to say, hey, well then, if that's you, let me come out on the water with you. That would take a lot to do. I don't know that I would even have thought of that myself. I probably would have just been awestruck. But here Peter's like, hey, well, let me come out there with you. And, But when he saw the wind, you notice when he took it's kind of like the saying, when you take your eyes off Jesus and you see other things, then you kind of lose heart and lose faith. And that's kind of what happens here. He sees the wind. Well, that means he just, he kind of realizes, we're in a bit of a storm here, or, there's a lot of wind and action. He was afraid and beginning to sink. Not that he sank, but he was beginning to sink. He cried out, Lord, save me. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying, oh, you have little faith, why did you doubt? Because obviously Peter came out on the water and went far enough to get that close to Jesus that Jesus could reach out and grab him. So, and then once Jesus grabbed him, well, then here again, he's walking on the water with Jesus. It doesn't say he had any trouble after that. And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly you are the Son of God. Well, yes, we know Jesus was the Son of God, but this was real proof for the disciples that, again, at some point you would think, you wouldn't be surprised anymore, but I guess seeing these miracles, it would just always seem like a surprise and a big deal. So, but it would be nice to think that I would have the kind of faith it takes, to get out of that boat and walk on the water and try to meet Jesus on the water. I don't know if I would have that much faith or not, but I would like to have that much faith to get out and try to walk out to Jesus. Because it's not a small thing. If you think about it, that is somebody who is, because we know when we get out of the boat, we're going to be in the water and we're going to need to swim. If you understand my meaning, it's just that it's something to think about. We do give Peter a hard time sometimes, but sometimes we need to stop and give him credit for being the only one that gets out of the boat and walks on the water with Jesus, and that's an amazing thing. We need to try to have faith and believe and get out of our comfort zone and get out of our boat and try to walk with Jesus and do that every day. It's not always an easy thing. So I'm just going to make a quick short note of that right there, just that we should try to be like that. We should get out of that boat, get out of our comfort zone, walk with Jesus. And yeah, we may stumble. Peter started to sink. We may stumble, but if we get our eyes off Jesus, if we stumble, we need to look back to the Lord and ask him to help us. And you'll notice he is ready and sure to do so, because it says right here, immediately he stretched his hand out and grabbed him and helped him. So, and that's how it should be. That's what we should be doing. So, that's our application, I believe. And there may be even more to that, but for right now, I think that's good. And thank you for listening. God bless you. You have a good day.